And good morning and hello. We are live from the Hive this morning. I am Bree, and we are looking at a gorgeous Saturday morning today. I'll tell you what I did this week. This is super silly, but someone had got me one of those things, the plastic dinosaurs, the little bitty ones, the really inaccurate ones that they're just cute and fun. Well, it was those, and there's little bit ones that get a little bit bigger too, but they have little palm trees and stuff as well. So what I did is I set them on my window, on the top part of the window in there, where my trans flag hangs over it. So now there's like a trans flag with little dinosaur silhouettes when the sun shines through it. It's freaking fantastic, and I am so happy to see everybody. I need a pride flag for this window over here. I think that would complete. In lieu of curtains, I'd like to just get a pride flag to put up there. It's gonna be like my college dorm room, I guess. Oh goodness. And let me just say hi to some people, because I saw somebody in the side chat that I haven't seen in a while, and I miss them, and they're freaking hilarious. Junk Shop Library, how are you, babe? I'm so happy to have you popping in, even if you're just visiting for a minute. I'm just thrilled to see you in the chat. So thank you so much for showing up. Robbie, about the link, I'll hit you up about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna try the HTTP next time and see if that works. Good morning, Sandy. As always. Thought she was late. What? You were first? Weren't you first? Yeah, you were first. Native Atheist was second. Always good to see you in the mornings. D Parks, we have Julie, we have Greg, we have DeFreak, we have Cyrinus, alias fake name. Oh my gosh, and of course, the ever-present and brutal Bugbot. I'm gonna go ahead and take a swat at Bugbot now. Hey Bree, who rescued you from that Mexican mummy? From the Mexican mummy? I don't know. Mexican Boris Karloff? Let's see who Bugbot's gonna sting this morning. So, yeah, that was last night's Cryptic Corner. Sorry, Greg, you got the sting. That was last night's Cryptic Corner. Was the Mexican mummy, alien mummy, maybe? I don't know. But it was quite the ride. There were other artifacts too that included more alien stuff. Cryptic Corner is always a great time. We do it live here on Saturday mornings. Then a couple months down the road, it will premiere as just a standalone show. You can, of course, you're always welcome to come watch that if you watch it live as well, just to see the interaction. You can watch me interact with you too. But it's also, directed towards my evening audiences, and it is a clip down so you don't have to watch the whole live from the Hive segment in order to enjoy that part of it. You all are seeing me without a lot going on. I just put my eyelashes on. I have another Thanksgiving to go to like right after this, like at 1. So we will be pushing through pretty good. Aliens, don't say it 3 times. Oh no. So, yeah, I got another Thanksgiving to go to at 1 this afternoon at my brother's. I made deviled eggs. They're probably not very good, but I put the effort in. That's the end of Thanksgiving for me, and I guess the beginning of the Christmas season when I come back through, because where I'm going to my brother's, I have to go through the town my mom lives in, so I'll probably stop there. She's got a whole bunch of my Christmas stuff packed up there. We'll probably come back home and decorate for Christmas or something. I don't know. Maybe this weekend at some point. But I'm not in any hurry for it. Thanksgiving was sort of sad. Christmas is probably going to be sad for me too. That's all right, because I got you beautiful people out there. I got my Hive to keep me company, and I will keep on trucking. And I am going to definitely take part in the 24-hour stream that I no doubt Purple Rise with Orange is putting up for us people that are living on our own, to have a sense of community and camaraderie. Yeah, the Coca-Cola-saurus video is probably about the most effort I'm going to put into making any kind of produced content for Christmas. I don't know. I might do something else, but that's I might do a follow-up video on that too. I don't know if I can find the proper stuff to splice in there with it, because I can't just use anything. It's gotta fit. I'm just doing that stuff to work on my editing skills and make little commercials and stuff to run through here. I wish I could change it from Coca-Cola to something else. So if somebody has thoughts on how that could be done, we could have them drinking something else after the dinosaur attack. Let me know. We could advertise. We could advertise if we could. We could do. Somebody has a microbrewery or something that they want to advertise on here, let me know, and we could do that. And like I said before, I'm looking for ads. So if you have a channel and you got an ad, or you got a short channel trailer, email it to me. The email's down below. It should be an email. Let me check. Yeah, the BugBot email is down below there. Email your channel trailers to there. I will watch them. If they look good, I will add them into either the intro, the one of the intermissions, or to the outro. I'll probably end up putting all the trailers in the intro. So there's that. And that way, everybody gets advertisements at the very beginning of the show. I'm just trying to be more community-minded. If you have events going on, you can also email those to me. I do have a calendar, and I will put those on. I'll put any events on the calendar up here on my scroll. You see up above where it says Today in Science. I am going to run that just on the segments, but on the intermission between the segments and the intro and outro, I will be running also a scroll up there that will advertise anything scheduled in the coming weeks if somebody sends me something. So emails down below. You send me any interviews you have coming up, who's going to be on there. You need to tell me at least 7 days before to get it added in, but I will. Oh, yeah, that's funny, Robbie, and you say that, but I guess the cat's out of the bag that I have an OnlyFans because I accidentally posted the advertisement for this and tagged all my people on Twitter in it from my OnlyFans account. So if you didn't know, now you know. And we're not going to talk about it here on this show, but that is a thing. And we'll leave it at that. Now, moving on. Oh, talking about the advertisements. I know you have your regular chat with Richard that we can put on there. Sandy, if you release anything that you want me to advertise up there, you let me know. Junk Shop Library, if you decide to come back, which I hope, and start doing regular content, I'd love to send people your way as well. But all of that said, that's our housekeeping for this morning. Just channel updates. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Premiere of Battle for Gaia live shows happened last night. I don't know if you were there, but we did the first live installment of Bree's Bestiary on Battle for Gaia, and it went pretty well. I had pretty steady people watching. We explored the history of the hyena from beginning to end, like from literally prehistoric hundreds of thousands of years ago up through Harley Quinn and everything going on right now with hyenas and pop culture. So we really did a deep dive on the way that hyenas were depicted. It's just an hour-long segment. The Bree's Bestiaries are fairly short, so if you're interested, go check that out. It was a fun time. I'll be live from 5 p.m. Eastern later with a twist of Thanksgiving chat. I don't know if I'll be back home at that time. I might be. If I am, I'll try to pop in, yeah. That'll be fun. So yeah, fundraisers too is another thing I almost forgot to mention. You give me a fundraiser to advertise. The fundraiser will get depending on the cause, of course. If it's like, oh, I need the new Xbox or whatever, I'm not going to put it up there. But anything for a good cause, especially mental health awareness stuff. So yeah, stuff like that. Definitely bring it to me, and I will put it away. So without any more delay, I think it's time to start the show. Let me check and make sure there's no more housekeeping to handle. Maybe I should come up with a name for the housekeeping segment too. I never republish this. This is exclusive for the live audience, and some of the rants in between too. I should probably do some rants in between, and maybe break this up throughout the show. But I always usually run the housekeeping up until this point, and then we go right into, it looks like, right into the landslide favorite segment on the show, which is Cryptic Corner. According to today's poll that was posted 19 minutes ago, 10 people have voted. Of the 10 of you, 8 people prefer Cryptic Corner over all the other segments we do. Because I'm not going to lie, it's my favorite too. I like Creation Watch, of course, but Creation Watch is me... I don't want to say catering to the community, but indulging in the skeptic community that I'm part of, because that's our favorite thing to go at. But Cryptic Corner is kind of unique to the Hive and the skeptic community, and I like that, and I like that that's what people seem to enjoy about my channel too. So, without delay, let us move right into Cryptic Corner. Hey, good morning and welcome to, or I should say good evening and welcome to Cryptic Corner. I am Bree, your host, Bumble Bree, if you will, and here at Cryptic Corner we are always down to explore the mysterious, the unknown, the 14, the extraterrestrial, the alien, the supernatural, the mysterious. So, thank you for joining us for Cryptic Corner. And today we have something coming to us. It's coming to us from, I should say it's coming to us from YouTube, but initially and beneath the surface, it is actually coming to us from from 4chan, which red flags. The screen turned red when I said 4chan, and that couldn't have been more perfect. Because red flags galore when it comes to 4chan. But I always like to revisit things that we visited before. Hive keeping, yes, that's perfect. D. So. Where was I? Oh, Antarctica. Yeah, I'm easily distracted by my side chat, so bear with me because we are currently live from the Hive recording this. So back to the topic at hand. So Antarctica, we did a coverage of Antarctica about a year ago. I think it was in January though, so not quite a year ago, where we covered some different select topics that come from the bottom of the world, the lost continent, if you will. And we talked about the Ninjin, the big ice monster thing. We talked about the creepypasta that lived under the ice, and the giant cephalopod that's venomous and what have you, that attacked the divers. Also not a thing. That was based on where the radio signal was lost for some time with the team that was working down there. The Ninjin, if you don't remember, it was on its surface very clear that it was that it was icebergs and Photoshop and stuff like that. And then, of course, we talked about the bloop, which took place not specifically in Antarctica, but in the oceans off of Antarctica. But that's not all that we visited. The visits that we've paid to Antarctica. We've talked about the Admiral Byrd story. We will go into that in more detail at some point with the Hollow Earth entrance being in Antarctica. We've talked about some of I guess we aren't doing so much of that anymore, but we did talk about some of the pop culture with like Beyond the Mountains of Madness. And I think that might be inspirational to what we're talking about today. So let's dive right in. Here we go. All right. So this is a channel I don't think we visited before. Let me see. It's Rabbit Hole. Prehistoric giant spiders in Antarctica. So new channel, new content here. So let's have a look. And this is kind of creepypasta format too. So again, and it comes from from 4chan originally. So take it with a grain of salt. But here we go.
Antarctica, the mysterious continent with no inhabitants, no history, and treaties protecting the inconspicuous no-fly areas.
Let's read this real quick. This is making some claims about Antarctica. As we know, when we get into these conspiracy topics, that there is this notion that you're not allowed to go to Antarctica. There's like armed guards patrolling it. All this crazy stuff. But students go to Antarctica all the freaking time. Like students, people send their kids. People pay for their kids to go to college, and they go to Antarctica on research projects. So it's not military guarded people, all in not just in any specific field either. There's people that'll go to on expeditions to Antarctica and just about every field of study that you can think of, from biology, weather, geology, physics, just anything and everything. They take readings down there because of the unique location. And so we have, you know, the North Pole, which is over water, and the South Pole, which is over over a landmass. So exploring the way that affects the Earth in that area is fascinating, and we'll continue to study it, and we'll continue to send our scientists down there. So scientists, not military, but here we go. PM3A nuclear power plant, authorized and funded by... See, this isn't even from... What are we looking at here? Is this Antarctica power plant? Oh, cool. Okay, let me see here. Authorized and funded by the U.S. Congress, August 1960. Designated and fabricated by Martin Company under contract to the Atomic Energy Commission, erected by Navy Seabees, February 1962. First critically, March 4th, 1962. Operated and maintained by Officer Seabees and I like that name, Seabees. Like their bees. And hospital corpsmen of the Naval Nuclear Power Unit for... Why is that all blurred out like that? Oh, Fort. Okay. Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Crews were augmented with Army and Air Force personnel. The plant was shut down in September 1972. In May 1979, PM 3 a.m., decommissioning was complete and the site released for unrestricted use. Power output, blah, blah, blah. So there's like a plant that was open for a little bit and then closed, open for less than a decade. Why are we looking at this?
Has had more than its fair share of conspiracies over the years.
So just to be clear, that was the claim why he pulled that up on the screen, was that nobody's allowed to go to Antarctica. And he showed a plaque that showed that these contractors were sent to Antarctica to build a power plant and then maintain it and then released. Yeah, but of course, Nazis. We are not going to be complete with Antarctica conspiracy theories without throwing in some Nazis.
Nazi hiding spots. Extraterrestrial landing zone.
Extraterrestrial landing zones.
And
this right here is the funny part, because it's the way these peaks are carved by the same wind that's blowing across this plane, gives them all this unique. Looks like the whip top of the butter when you open it up, kind of, and the way that the shadow falls when this light hits from this angle makes it like a cross. So it's yeah, obviously the extraterrestrial landing site.
Its inexplicable connection to the hidden underground.
Obviously, yeah. So North Pole and South Pole. I think King Kong, the kingdom that King Kong lives in, is over here. I don't know. This isn't the hole that Godzilla blasted. He was in... Where was he when he blasted through the hole? Tokyo? So he would have been... How do they have a map like this without Japan on it? Well, India's right here. I guess this is the Himalayas, right? And then the Andes. Got to put New York on there. There's no other cities. They're all continents and countries, except for New York. Somebody was U.S. focused.
World of Agartha. You wouldn't be wrong if you thought this video was just another in a long line of conspiracy.
At least they're self-aware.
But what if something much darker was going on in the continent? And what if there was proof?
Spiders.
On Sunday, February 14th, 2021,
Valentine's Day.
An anonymous user,
Good morning, Big
Son
Zebra.
of Phantom, posted in the 4chan paranormal community.
I say hi to some other people too. Who else has popped in here? Polly, it's good to see you. Sage, Ohio, welcome, welcome, welcome. Godseed, thank you everybody for coming in. Chris Foster, thank you for coming in today, and thank you for coming and hanging out in Battle for Gaia last night. It was a great first stream. I hope to see you returning. Yeah, this right here is where you want to. Yeah. when you see the 4-leaf clover there, that's where this comes in. So, yeah. But we're going to continue on. We're going to let them make their case from Paranormal 4chan.
Community about his father's discoveries whilst working on the McMurdo base. The user, who for today we will just call Anton, came across a thread discussing this Google Earth image.
All right, let's see this here. Okay, so to leave it as a blank slate as possible, we're just going to pause in this image for a minute, and I want the Hive to absorb it and look at and understand what we're seeing, what this thing is in the distance here, and take in the surroundings and the way that the light is hitting things and reflecting off of stuff and what that might do. But I don't want you to think too hard on it right now because we're going to have fun with this first, okay?
The image looks to be a huge, spider-like creature making its way across the treacherous wasteland of the continent.
Huge spider-like creature making its way across the wasteland of the continent. It's Canada. You might not be that far off. Good morning, Blaster. Is that my Deep Arcs out there? Hello, lovely. Deep Arcs is she is responsible for at least I don't want to downplay her contribution, but she's like responsible for like 4/5 of the content you see here on CryptoCorner. She is my dedicated sleuth into all things unknown. So, thank you, Deep Arcs. You are a indispensable, irreplaceable member of the Hive. So much love. Not this one though. This one I found on my own because this just came out. This video is 1 month old. Yeah. So I mean, it's been on the floor for a minute, but yeah, it just came out.
Users debated its size and sought to find a reasonable explanation for the figure until shortly into the debate.
Let's see. Hold on. What did that first thing say? What would be the approximate size of it? Yeah, it's hard to say with nothing to scale, right? That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
For the figure until shortly.
OP, I am the foremost expert on this subject. Foremost with no no E. My father was stationed in Antarctica at McMurdo, with a space between Mick and Murdo station. He's told me things y'all want to hear. Some effed up. Yeah, okay.
Into the debate, Anton began to share his story. I'm using a name because it's easier.
Yeah, then he started calling himself Son of Anon. So it's probably Son of Antarctica Anonymous is what they're going for here. But it is giving us this name Anton that they're going to give this character. But yeah, we'll let the narrator read it. I'm not going to read it.
For me to keep track of this shit. Some background. My dad is a doctor. Was stationed at McMurdo for 11 months in the 90s. Not saying what year, because he was the only doctor there, and y'all could track me down. Frequently went out on scientific expeditions. First and foremost, there were some areas where people just didn't go. They weren't environmentally hazardous. They just were avoided for one reason or another. When my dad asked one of the researchers who had been there for 10 years, he went pale and told them to shut up. It was about 30 miles south. 10
miles south. One word. But again, don't forget where we are. We're 4chan.
East of McMurdo, they took a 5-mile detour around whatever the hell was there. Anton shares with users that his father had worked on the base, and after his time there, he had shared with his son that 5-legged spider-like.
Also, sorry about the spelling and shit. This I think faster than I can type, and I want to get this out there. Thirdly, there were the striders. The striders is what they call them, I guess. Big 5-legged things that crawl across the continent at night or in snowstorms. There were sightings from military personnel there. Most of McMurdo is U.S. Navy. My dad had a Polaroid of one of the footsteps in a track from one of the Dakars they had, and it was easily a foot deep into the snow. That was already packed down from a 10-ton truck. Also, what the normal shelters look like. Okay.
Like creatures around the continent, only at night. Anton described how the creatures had been witnessed by many military workers, and his father even had Polaroid images of the tracks the creatures had made, with its footsteps being 30 to 40 human steps.
And just to be clear, they keep showing spiders in their graphics here. From the descriptions that they've given so far, they don't sound like spiders in any way, shape, or form, or anything that would be, or that could be construed as an arachnid of any type. But let's let them continue on. You make a good point. The official reasoning for Antarctica being controlled is they want to keep it the last untouched place on Earth. Like Strider from Half-Life, big as far as they know. So like, yeah, he's talking about Half-Life. If you ever played Pathways into Darkness, one of the enemies resembles it, but only just think pick related, but white, gray, 7 to 8 stories tall, and 5 legs instead of 2. Yeah, it does not sound like a spider at all, 5 legs. But 7 to 8 stories tall. Yeah, we just haven't noticed these 7 to 8 stories tall monsters striding across the Antarctica. They've never been documented officially by any of these scientific expeditions, including again, the students that go and spend the summers down there, or I guess it would be the winters down there, because in the southern hemisphere that's the warm season, where they can get in. 7 stories tall. Yes. Yeah. Like that's a 7. I live in the Midwest, so there's not a lot of tall buildings, but when it comes to being 7 stories tall, you can see especially because I live in the Midwest, and you can see for miles and miles because it's flat. I live in Illinois, and you can see a 5-story tall building from like from on the other side of the Mississippi, about 3 or 4 miles out. You can see those buildings peeking up. So giant monsters. I guess that's why they say they only come out at night or roam around in the snowstorms, though.
Apart, but all of the workers had been scared into silence. Anton told the thread how on one occasion his father, a doctor at McMurdo, had attempted to find out more about the mysterious creatures. When his superiors got wind of what was going on, he was swiftly brought into his superior's office and yelled at, threatened with firing, and told they didn't need none of you unwanted smart types around here. From then on,
we don't need you smart types around in Antarctica telling us how to stay alive down here. I mean, what is the claim here? Smart types. Like, I think what percentage of of the population of Antarctica at any given time is scientists. Just to make clear, what would you say the percentage of the people living in Antarctica are scientists? There's a percentage of them, I'm sure, that are literally just military, or literally just like civil engineers and things like that. But yeah, junk shopping. I don't know that, because with the square cube law, you think about sustaining yourself, sustaining your weight.
On, Anton's father kept his questions to himself, for fear of what would happen if he spoke out. One day, Anton's father was called to treat a man he had never met before. The man had severe lacerations and was delirious, shouting they were frozen. We thought they were dead, whilst he was being treated. Anton's father was told the man, who he didn't believe even worked at the base, had simply fallen. But the cuts were too clean to have come from rocks, and no debris had been left behind. As he was being treated, the man simply repeats, "We let them loose," over and over again, before a guard attempted to gag him to stop him from talking anymore. Anton's father immediately tries to warn the guard off. The severity of the man's injuries meant that he was relying on an oxygen mask, and gagging him would mean a certain death.
So that's yeah, someone comes in with lacerations in Antarctica, fell on the ice, according to the official story, but his dad's a doctor and he knows better. He knows that those are not wounds from falling on the ice. And the guy's ranting about monsters that they released. Maybe monsters. He doesn't even say the monsters. He says they. Leave it mysterious. He doesn't say these giant 7-story tall spiders. No, he doesn't. But he does.
After that, Anton's father was escorted out and locked in his quarters until the injured man had apparently left the continent. As Anton was posting, users began jumping.
You can buy land on the moon, but not on Antarctica. I find that interesting. Yeah, because Antarctica is already owned.
Onto the thread, demanding to see any kind of proof of what Anton was saying.
I gotta say, when it comes to things like that, though, like to buying property or buying a star, like you buy a star from one of these star programs. Oh, name a star after your loved ones. Buy this star. Like, is that gonna be honored? Can you pass that on to your kids, and then centuries down the road, when we start traveling to star systems, you have a deed of ownership for this star? It's an alien, not used to our gravity.
Anton responded by posting images of a plaque his father had received, which indeed confirmed he was there.
All right, the Antarctic Treaty. Yeah. This is something you'll see a lot of flat earthers and conspiracy theories people post about, as the Antarctic Treaty. It's just the treaty between the nations to preserve Antarctica for scientific research. It's basically a continent owned by science, which is freaking amazing, but we'll let everybody go there. All you have to do is you have to charter your own trip to get there, but there's no armed guards telling you can't. You can't just like get in your John boat and start going south, though. I mean, that's you are a, how should I explain it? You would be a safety hazard, because you get stranded or something trying to go down there yourself. They have to use resources to fly hundreds of miles to get you. So they're not, they don't F around. you will get in trouble if you go down there and get yourself stranded without following the proper protocols. But that's for obvious safety reasons, right? Maybe the and I do see that there is a connection between these conspiracy theory people who have all these ideas about Antarctica, and the libertarian movement that I should be able to go wherever I want, and that is noted. It's noted that they think that there shouldn't be any regulations about where they can go in Antarctica. Unfortunately, for the people who have to do the rescue missions to come get them when they inevitably find themselves in peril, it does matter. It is important. You need to think about other people. We're members of a society. You need to take them into consideration, because despite the fact that you are using your libertarian free will to go into the unexplored recesses of the southern continent, you are not considering the fact that you're taking your own life into your hands, but they're still going to send out a rescue mission for you. They're not going to just leave you. They're going to try. They're going to spend thousands of dollars trying to rescue you. Retired guard penguins. I don't know about the. Yeah, penguins really don't like living in Antarctica. They it's the only kind of work that penguins can get. But they're always looking for good retirement packages where they can get a good place at some local zoo, someplace tropical. Yeah.
As well as this, Anton said that his father had logged a lot of information on a computer, which he believed.
Let's read this one since he's not going to read it. Snowstorms, I don't know what that area. Hell, a lot worse than. Oh, they are a hell of a lot worse than people make them out to be. As I said, that's when people see the striders. But there is banging on the doors, windows, walls, everything. Dad said he thought he saw one of those small things hit his window and bounce off once while he was playing Sims. I don't know what he's playing here. I would say that with both the fact that they ran over one in the summer and that they are most active in the winter, it's very likely that these things like extreme cold. Yeah, you think something living in Antarctica likes the cold. That's probably a good theory to start with. I have a hell of a lot more documents with my dad's name I could take photos of, but a quick Google reverse image will show that it is original in many ways. I'm going to see if I can get the 2SI to run. Okay.
He was still in the house. Hours later, an image of a computer, an Apple IIe, was posted by Anton, who had another story to share. Anton
Picture of an old computer. Well, that proves it.
Then told users how on one occasion his father had been out in the field driving with some colleagues when they hit something.
I do have a government scientist dad, but you don't know him. He goes to another school in Canada.
Jumping out of the car to see the damage, Anton's father was horrified to see something that resembled one of the monsters from the film Cloverfield. The creature, with spindly legs like a spider, had been completely crushed by the vehicle and was clearly dead.
Must be a baby because it's not because you couldn't crush a 7-story tall one.
Before he could even believe what he was seeing, Anton's father was rushed back into the car and told to shut up about what he had seen. A cryptid, some deformed
Cthulhu
Arctic creature, or was something even more terrifying going on?
Cthulhu though doesn't. He's centered in the Pacific though, in the depths of the Pacific, the South Pacific, but still. Hey, Amy Newman, good to see you, girl.
At the McMurdo base. According to Anton, the death toll in Antarctica was much larger than people would assume. Anton's father would tell his son about the devastating conditions some people would die in, ripped apart limb from limb and left in the snow to freeze. Anton's father would have to wait until the bodies thawed so that he could sew them back together and send them back home. But on one occasion, another man Anton's father had never met was brought in. He was missing his lower limbs and his intestines were spilling out. They couldn't find his lower half. Instead, Anton's father had to do the best he could to present the body to the man's family when his corpse was flown home. But what Anton's father did know...
Yeah, we don't know what happened to the rest of your dad, kids. Sorry, but here's the top half you can bury. That's got to be a story. And why did he make it like he's got to present him himself? He's like, I did the best I can with half your dad. I don't think that's how that works. Usually the person who does the work is not the one that's like, okay, here's your... And that's a situation where you'd be like, okay, can I DM? And we'll ID him from the waist up, and then not make you look at that bottom half.
was the fact that this was no quick death. By the looks of his injuries, he had been torn apart and clawed down from the bottom of his rib cage, with scratches and bite marks covering his torso. Even worse, his death was covered up and classified as hypothermia. Sure. But
actually, I think that from what I understand, that being in extreme cold can actually keep you alive longer when you're keep you from bleeding out if the wound freezes over, if the blood on the surface freezes, because it becomes like an ice scab. I don't know if that's valid or not, but I've heard that. Someone fact checked that. I hate saying things and then realizing that I'm just talking out of my ass. It's spreading something that may or may not be fact. See how I try to be honest like that, you know? If I blurt something out and I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't have facts on that. That's just something I've heard. I say it. So, yeah. We should all do that. I think everybody should.
by this time, so
Special half-off funerals, Big Zebra. Aw.
many unidentified men had been brought before Anton's father.
I thought Amy was the comedian in the side chat, Big Zebra.
So many unknown men in such a small area. He questioned why it appeared these men, or Arctic warfare officers, as they were called, were being shipped en masse to die. But of course, he could...
Arctic warfare officers. The war with the ice bugs. We keep the Navy keeps them contained in the southern continent. That's why it's protected. Not to keep the flat Earth a secret, not to hide the portal to the hollow Earth, but because that's where we've contained the ice spiders. I think that's the claim here.
Anything. Instead, he was forced to keep his head down.
Ice scabs, yeah, that does sound like a punk band, a horror punk band. Eek.
And mouth shut. Arctic warfare officers
It is a
weren't
desert.
the only groups of people.
And there's no trees. This is not Antarctica. No trees grow in Antarctica.
Dying in horrific ways and being presented before Anton's father. Researchers were too. One time, whilst working on the body of a researcher, he struck gold. Inside their pockets was a journal. The journal contained deeply detailed
Of course, the mysterious journal that appears.
diagrams and descriptions of animals that just didn't exist. What was going on? Fed up, Anton's father cornered another researcher, book in hand, and questioned her. She stiffened up and refused to answer anything.
So the other researcher knows something. But they won't tell Anton's dad.
Hours later, Anton's father was given a final warning. Shut up, or get out.
Don't come to Antarctica and try to start talking about the ice spiders that everybody is dealing with that are killing people and everybody else knows about but you. Don't ask questions, even though every single other person you've interacted with knows everything about this and you don't.
He was threatened with being sent back to America once again. Undeterred, Anton's father waited until his base commanding officer was out one day and took his chance to rifle through his things. He found hundreds of documents detailing operations that had taken place, excursions and experiments happening over and over again, with detailed results. The base had been used to create and perfect military-grade animals to be used in warfare, and Anton's father had been an unwilling participant in everything. Suddenly, officers broke into where Anton's father was and detained him. He knew too much. He had to go. Anton's father was days away from being shipped back to the US, and knowing that his time was up, he spent every last second that he had on the continent collecting evidence and testimony. One more.
I don't think that's how that works. I think that if they decommission you, you're not allowed to. He would be restricted to access to documents and things like that. Like in a real situation like this, where you were on a military base as a contracted medical doctor. I don't think it said. Yeah, he was a lieutenant. So he was a military doctor. But I don't think that they're going to let you just start going through classified documents once they've been decommissioned.
Morning, days away before he was due to leave, a man named Jones shook him awake.
Jones.
He told Anton's father how he had just got back from a mission, and he needed to talk to him. Anton's father told him to come back when he was awake, but instead, Jones proceeds to tell Anton's father the most incredible story. Now awake, Anton's father listens to Jones.
Here's where this story goes off the rails. You thought this story was off the rails already. Here's where it's really going to go off the rails. So buckle in, kiddos.
As he describes how he had gotten up at 5 a.m. the day before to go on an expedition with some researchers. Only, they didn't take the military car. Instead, they took a truck with an M134 minigun on it, along with tins of other weapons. After they load out, they go southwest, pulling up to what looks like an office building. Inside, Jones describes to Anton.
You know, all those office buildings in Antarctica, all the buildings look the same. They're all these manufactured, clipped and pieced together structures that are on bolted into set foundations. All the buildings are the same kind of structure down there. They have to be. It's the same. The walls are made out of the same stuff like your refrigerators are made out of, with the layered insulation, because it gets freaking cold in Antarctica constantly, and these buildings have to be climate controlled. So it's like a reverse refrigerator. So looks like an office building. What?
His father, how the building was some sort of government lab, similar to what you would expect in a film. Carnage broke out straight away. From Jones' account, it seemed that they had stumbled across some Chinese testing facility. Once clear of the entrance, with bodies littering the hallways, they move downstairs to a set of tunnels. Once through, they find an underground secret laboratory with broken cages, dead bodies, and
then they get down to the area where the ancient aliens put the eggs down there, and then the predators come and hunt them. I've seen this movie, Alien versus Predator, I think it's called.
unfamiliar technology everywhere you could see. But Jones revealed to Anton's father that this was part of something bigger.
Something bigger.
Much bigger.
Much bigger.
You see, the tunnels weren't just for getting across the facility on foot. No, the tunnels actually hosted bullet trains, with destinations like Hong Kong, New York, Melbourne, London, countries from all over the world. But that's not all.
So we are literally looking at what is this, the bullet trains that go through the center of the earth? What? What is the claim here? Are they going into the oceans? Are they are these subnautical trains? Because it's only going to be underground for so long before you're underwater instead. Unless it's saying that it goes under the ocean floor. And then I'm going to say, who engineered that? Because we already spend just to build it under a like the tunnel under a strait. You know, going from London to Paris or something, or France to the UK or whatever. I know it's not going to be directly London to Paris, but building a tunnel right there would be fantastic. But it's building tunnels under earth and underwater are Yeah, it's a real endeavor. Yeah, they must be funnel web spiders or ants. Maybe they're giant ants. Maybe the giant spiders are actually giant ants.
One cage had two of the primordial spider creatures inside, with the remnants of a human child.
Oh,
The creatures were being fed with children from all over the world. The Chinese base was being used as a human trafficking ring,
it's a
with
Chinese base now. Remember that.
the victims ending up as dinner for what seemed like man-made creatures of warfare. Jones told Anton's father how it took them over 18 hours to clear the facility. Users questioned Anton some more.
There's some weird pictures of what the creatures were allegedly looking like and whatnot.
And he told them how his father believed from various accounts and eyewitness testimonies he had collected.
I think they are frozen since the Ice Age. They were apex predators at the time, like dog intelligence.
Creatures that have existed for millennia. Frozen from the Ice Age, they had been slowly brought back to life through various DNA technologies and biologically altered. And with that, Anton's father was sent back to the US. He was court-martialed for his crimes of snooping too much in the base. But, according to Anton, as he had never signed an NDA, he was free to go. The knowledge was buried until his son shared all of that on February 14th, 2021.
Last February.
After recounting his father's story, Anton left the thread, promising that
To keep y'all up to date, the hard drive needs professional recovery. I'll come back when that happens. I can make no promises when that will happen. Just check every Antarctica thread until I appear.
he would get professional help to recover the hard drive on his father's Apple IIe and prove the terrible events going on in the hidden continent. To this day, Anton hasn't posted again. So, what do you think? A made-up story shared by a lonely user on Valentine's Day? Or did Sono Phantom and his father really know something? Was Anton stopped by force from coming back to the thread?
Yes, we'll never know. Actually, let's do some exploration of this real quick before we get too far into this. So this is what Reddit has done with the thread here. So we've got the pictures and the story and all the screenshots and everything, so we can kind of get an idea. His Antarctic treaty thing, son of Anton, 214, yeah. As promised. There's his dad's plaque that he talked about, the Apple computer. I did look into these. This is a real thing. VXE6, Operation Deep Freeze. So, yes, this is a real unit. They are stationed at McMurdo. They fly out of Christchurch, New Zealand. And this Operation Deep Freeze is really a thing. They are, and there we go, Admiral Byrd. Yeah, who is obviously famous for his tales of the extraordinary experience in Antarctica. Maybe we should explore that at some point. Maybe this is calling for a part 2 where we look into some of the history behind Admiral Byrd. Unless you all don't, do you all know? And if you don't, do you want to know? I don't have time to do it today because I got a tight schedule for the show. But if this is something that you guys want to explore further, or you don't know about Admiral Richard Byrd and his Antarctic excursions, let me know, and I will do I will make sure to squeeze it in somewhere in the coming months to go over in detail. But yeah, Operation Deep Freeze is the exploration, military exploration of Antarctica. So There's more details about it, but it's a real thing. That's what I want to punctuate here, that this was a real military excursion. And why do I have it up like that? Let's see. There we go. That's better. Had all my tabs at the top. That annoys me. All right, so get into this a little bit here. But yeah, that's basically the whole interaction on 4chan all documented. But the main thing I want to focus on is not the story, because the story sounds nonsensical on its face. I want to focus on this for a minute. This is very interesting, and I actually have some zoomed in exploration of this. So let me see here. Yeah, this is just blown up from the 4chan screenshot on Reddit. So we have this seen in the distance here, right? And if we zoom in just a little bit, you see that it starts to kind of break up a little bit. That there's a dark line that runs across the horizon, right across the middle of the picture. You see that darker line. There's a shadow there, obviously. Looks like it might be a road. Okay, and that the light is coming from the direction that we're facing. The sun is in that direction. The shadows are falling towards us, including the shadow of whatever this black thing is. But it is refracting off the snow and giving us these different lines. So if you look, the legs on this thing are probably reflections of the object itself, with the light being diffused across the surface. I've inverted it here and looked at it, and I just don't see, if you look at the way that these lines going down are pixelated, and the way that is being pulled out in the image, to me it looks very clearly like it's reflection of shadow and light. Because when we invert it, we turn the light to shadow and the shadow to light, and you can see very clearly that it's pooling in different directions. So this image, and there's a little bit of red to it. You notice that? A little bit of red. I mean, when you zoom in, it kind of dissipates, but definitely in this image, there's a little bit of red here. So let us, let's do it. Let's look at the base. So this will be our last little endeavor here. There we go. Okay, so this is the Ross Archaeopterygium. And this is Murdo Sound. Okay, Murdo Sound. And just to give an idea of where we are, there's McMurdo, and that's Antarctica. We are in this little cove here, but we're still on an island. We're not on the mainland. This is an island. And this is a sound. And this is a little peninsula where you see those trackways. Those are actually roads that go out over the water. Isn't that wild? Because this is sea ice. Because there's an airport out here that's on the sea ice. Isn't that crazy? And then there is roads that go here and there and everywhere. See? Iced runway road. Got a road here. So yeah, strange as it is to say, on this area of Antarctica, which we're really close to the coast and all these research stations, that there's roads. This isn't some mysterious cut-off place. I mean, it is isolated, but it's not. It's a huge facility. It has a bus station. Scott's Hut. It's a historical landmark. All right, so this is McMurdo Station, and all that comes with it. The cool thing about McMurdo Station, though, is that unlike the majority of Antarctica, we can actually drop our little happy feet right down in to McMurdo. So let's do that right now. Let's go out here. Oh, no, that's inside. And that's inside the facilities. Look at that. Here, that's where we want to go. Outside. There we are. Outside, sunny, beautiful Antarctica. The sun is glistening. It's a gorgeous 8 degrees Fahrenheit. And you couldn't ask for a more beautiful but frigid day. What I wanted to look at, and I've been here before. You all think that I'm novel exploring this place, but I want to look at these nifty monster vehicles here. These big red vehicles. You know? They look pretty cool, huh? Not those ones specifically, but these ones right here. Look at that. Look at this one right here. Can I go any further? Yeah, I need to get where I can see it from an angle. Look at these. Interesting vehicle we have here. Let's see. What do you think? Think we found our culprit? I really think that this is a good candidate for it. So yeah. Hopefully this this gave you an idea how my brain works on these things, to give an idea of what to expect from the hive. All right, so now I think that is all the Antarctica that we are. No, it's not actually, because I needed to tell you guys that I do believe that there are giant spiders in Antarctica. No doubt about it. And that they're the research base or the research station in McMurdo Station, whatever you want to call it, does study giant spiders in Antarctica. And I just wanted to, real quick, before we move too far along, I wanted to introduce you guys to the giant spiders of Antarctica. These are Antarctic sea spiders. They're absolutely massive. They can reach up to 3 foot leg span. They do not climb up and crawl around on the surface, though. These guys live in a deep sea, but they're not actual spiders, but they are chelicerates. They are related to arachnids and horseshoe crabs as well. But these guys are vampires too. They suck the life out of their prey through a proboscis, and they breathe through their legs. So very interesting creatures. That's what the a lot of the scientific research in McMurdo Station is about. The effects of climate change and oxygen levels in the Antarctic waters and in the ice sheets. So, and what gases are being released from the ice sheets as well. So, there has been some exploration into animals that have unique respiratory systems, like these giant sea spiders. So, I thought that was interesting. This is this. I don't know if that's why McMurdo was chosen, because when you look up McMurdo in giant spiders, all that comes up is all about this stuff, which is really cool, but not the monster story that we're looking at. I don't know if that was done purposely. If it was, good on you for making the troll a little harder to suss out by using something like this as a red herring to send me down multiple rabbit holes. Yeah, but that is Cryptic Corner for today. We went to Antarctica and we discovered monsters. But I think the monsters were actually monster trucks, because that's what that looked like to me. A truck seen through the glittering snow. So, with that all said and done, this has been Cryptic Corner. Thank you for watching today. And if you have a different opinion on what we're looking at in these photos, or what this story is explaining, let us know in the comment section down below. I love a little friction, love a little discourse. If you think that my identification as a vehicle, as an Antarctic vehicle, a red Antarctic vehicle to be specific, and perhaps the one or a model like the one we just looked at, if you disagree with that, then let me know, and I'll be happy to I'll even read your comments if you make a good case. So let me know. We are going to end Cryptic Corner here, so please remember to be kind and take care, and we will see you next time.
There were giants in the earth in those days. Genesis chapter 6. Evolution believers, and by the way, you have to believe in evolution. You don't accept evolution, you believe it. Stop saying you accept it. You can only accept the truth. You have to believe something else, and evolution is a religion. They want you to think that man started off small, like a chimpanzee, and got bigger, better, stronger, smarter. No ancient man, ancient man was probably much bigger and smarter than modern man. I hate to skip a whole hour's worth of stuff, but if you watch my video number 2, I'm going to skip that part about the canopy above, of why they lived to be 900 and why they got to be so big. But in Italy, they found in a coal mine, they found a skeleton 11'6". How'd you like to have him on the basketball team? Okay, Herman, drop the ball in the hoop right there. Okay. A skeleton 9'8" was found in Brewersville, Indiana. Now, here's what the atheists do, and they're going to do that on my channel, I'm sure, tonight, okay? They're going to try to discredit each and every one of these giant finds. And some have been hoaxes. There have been hoaxes and frauds, no question. Your whole religion of evolution is a hoax and a fraud, the whole thing. But we all came from a rock 4.6 billion years ago. That whole thing's a fraud. But it's true, there have been a few frauds, but there's been a lot of research done on giants. You guys don't want to believe that because it goes against your religion. You want people to believe, oh, you started like a chimpanzee and we're getting bigger, better, stronger, smarter. When the truth is the opposite. There were giants in the earth in those days, like the Bible says. I interviewed Charles Hankley of Temecula, California. I don't know if his number is still good there. In the early 70s, he was vacationing in Virginia City, Nevada. He went to a small private museum where he saw 2 skeletons about 9 feet tall in a glass-covered pit. The owner found them in a cave. About 10 years later, he stopped to see the skeletons, but the owner told him someone from the government had taken them and would not return them. Buried beneath heavy layers of shell some 30 miles below the city, I'm almost certain it's Shreveport, Mr. Clay found unmistakable evidence of a prehistoric race. Huge bones, similar in every respect to man's, were found embedded in thick layers of clamshells. As many as a score of skeletons were found intact. Every skeleton was fully 9 feet high. A skeleton 10 feet tall found in Humboldt Lake, Nevada. In Walkertown, Indiana, I just Googled it about an hour ago, a group of amateur archaeologists opened a mound of 1925 and unearthed the skeletons of 8 giants ranging from 8 to 9 feet long. All were wearing heavy copper armor. Through the bungling of the diggers and the disinterest of the museum establishment, why would a museum not be interested in 9-foot skeletons? In 1616, Dutch explorers Jacob Lemire and William Stoughton described stumbling upon a pair of skeletons more than 9 feet tall. Patagonia means big feet. A skeleton 12 feet tall found by soldiers in Lompoc, California, 1883. The remains were reburied due to objections by local Indians. Skeleton 12 feet tall reported in many papers near Tucson, Arizona. The man had 6 toes, long hair, and a bird-shaped headdress. Two other, male and female, 9'4" and 8 foot. Others were 10 feet tall. Ohio giants from Scientific American. Now see, this is 1880, when Scientific American would go ahead and publish the truth about things they actually found. Now they hide anything that goes against the evolution religion. I bet you won't find any articles against Mormonism in the Mormon magazine. A woman reportedly 7 feet tall was found with an infant. Smithsonian has lots of information hidden in their basement about this. Lovelock Cave, Nevada, in Winnemucca, Nevada. Let's see, they found all kinds of giant stuff. There's a normal human thumb bone. There it is next to a giant human thumb bone. This replica is in our museum here, 47-inch femur. Joe Taylor made a casting. The guy had to be 16 feet tall. An Egyptian construction crew ran into a burial mound, found several burials of giant humans, some 16 feet tall. King Og in the Bible was 12 to 18 feet. We got the replica right here in our museum. That'd be a big fella. Large, non-petrified human jawbones in eastern Turkey. New York Giants, not the baseball team. In 1871, archaeological dig at Native American burial ground unearthed 200 giant skeletons, some measuring up to 9 feet tall. It was also estimated that the remains could have been up to 9,000 years old. I can fix that by 4,600, okay, when the flood came. At the time of the discovery, the remains were widely reported in the media, but today the remains have disappeared. Strange. One of the most famous giant footprints found was outside someplace in South Africa. It was found 100 years ago by a hunter. Locals named it the footprint of God. The print is 1.2 meters long. What would that be? Over 4 feet? Well, one footprint. And the rest of the body was sized in proportion to the foot. The giant would stand about 24 to 27 feet tall. That's a pretty good sized footprint. 1912, a 4-foot long print was unearthed in South Africa that was dated over 200 million years old. You guys knock it off, okay? Whatever humanoid made the print would have had been about 27 feet tall.
Hello and welcome to Creation Watch. That was Big Bad Mama's super cut of Kent Hovind talking about giants. I hope you did enjoy that. Me and her both released, me and Big Bad Mama both released a super cut of Kent Hovind talking nonsense with on the same day. It was kind of funny. So mine was about pterodactyls, but it didn't just have Kent Hovind. Mine had Juby and Powell and all these other people talking about pterodactyls. So if you haven't watched my supercut, I was originally going to put mine up, but I'm like, you know what? Why plug my own stuff all the time when I have a community that I could support and share their content and send people their way? So I did link Big Bad Mama's channel up above, and if you think that was a entertaining supercut, they do lots of supercuts of different, mostly Dinosaur Adventureland, but they do other people as well. They cover an LPP and logical, probable, plausible, and standing for truth, and people like that as well. So they also post clips of them reading their standing for truth and other channels reading their comments and questions to different creationists, not just theirs, but also other funny people that ask questions like Creationist Crybaby, and I think Stupid Horror Energy. But yeah, go check it out if you don't if you do have time, because they are a fun channel to follow if you like this little laugh in your life. But that's not your fill of Hovind today. And we will at some point definitely talk about Hovind and his giants, and we may even use this supercut to guide us. But today we are not talking about that Hovind. Today we are looking at a novel face in the Hive. We are looking at Hovind the Younger. We are looking at Eric Hovind. And I don't know if you all are any of you all are familiar with him. The most that a lot of people know about him is that he was the one who got the whipping at the dentist in the dentist chair. So if you know anything about Hovind, you know that he's really proud of that story where he physically abused his son at the dentist office and made him cry, and so that he could shoot him in the mouth so the dentist could do the Novocaine. Yeah, so I don't attack Eric. Eric Hovind seems like a nice guy. He does. By comparison, anyway, I'm sure that if we got into the meat of it, we might find some things that we disagree, and it may shift my view on him. Mostly, if you look through his channel here, let's look at the topics of some of this. Here's talking about Mormonism, Mount Sinai, atheist to pastor, directed towards kids or kids asking tough questions, genetics. They go on expeditions. Talking about butterflies here, that would be an interesting one to cover. Too long for this show, but yeah, I look for stuff that's under 20 minutes to cover on Creation Watch if I can find it, because anything longer than that goes on for days. I already have picked out what I am covering. I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what the channel that Eric Hovind operates, which is Creation Day Ministries, has to offer. There is some things like CRT that I bet I could I imagine if I watch this, I may have a different opinion about Eric Hovind at the end of it. Maybe that's something I could watch at some points from 9 months ago, but I can't imagine that there's good takes there. But I could be pleasantly surprised as well. So things like that. There's not stuff about. He doesn't go into controversial topics as often as he does, like strictly talking about creationism, which I like. So if we enjoy going into this channel, we may revisit it again. I mean, yeah, look, this right here, it may make me hate Eric Hovind, but I'm not watching it today. This right here may make me hate Eric Hovind, but I'm not watching it today because we are watching something new and shorter, because we are looking at evolution. Is it biblical? And pay attention to the title of this video, because I think Hovind's borrowed from his dad's book here as to what he thinks evolution means. So you tell me what you think. Here we go.
Got to challenge you a little bit, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let Neil deGrasse Tyson do it. He just put up a video recently.
If you knew nothing about science and you read, say, the Bible, the Old Testament, which in Genesis is an account of nature. That's what that is. And I said to you, give me your description of the natural world based only on this. You would say the world was created in 6 days and that stars are just little points of light, much lesser than the sun. And in fact, they can fall out of the sky. One of the signs that the second coming is that the stars will fall out of the sky and land on Earth. So to even write that means you don't know what those things are. You have no concept of what the actual universe is. So everybody who tried to make proclamations about the physical universe based on Bible passages got the wrong answer. So what happened was, when science discovers things and you want to stay religious, or you want to continue to believe that the Bible is unerring, what you would do is you would say, well, let me go back to the Bible and reinterpret it. Then you'd say things like, oh, they didn't really mean that literally, they meant that figuratively. So this whole sort of reinterpretation of how figurative the poetic passages of the Bible are came after science showed that this is not how things unfolded.
Is that what happened when we...
Yes, that's what happened. And it still happens today, even among, just because you decide that you draw on the line, this is poetic and this is literal, there's everybody across the spectrum drawing their lines in different places, Eric. It's not unique to you or your sect.
We kept reinterpreting the Bible based on the new science that we discovered. It's like, oops, he's like, look, if you just go with the Bible and you ignore science, you're going to get a lot of stuff wrong.
You know, it's so much to respond to there. He's throwing up what we call the conflict thesis from the 19th century, this idea that Christianity and the Bible held back progress, and there's this big perpetual battle going on.
Yeah, there's people that do that. They'll put up that that chart that shows the progress of humanity, and then it'll be like this drop off where, oh, here's the Christian Dark Age, and then go back up and when Enlightenment comes around. Those are not accurate. There was a lot of technologies that were innovated during the Dark Ages. There was a lot of people want to focus on just certain regions of Europe where, if you look at the rest of the world, that they were not in a Dark Age.
That's utter nonsense. And he's also putting particular interpretations upon some biblical passages, which I recognize which passages they were as they went through that. And
just to be clear, when I say that, I mean when I say the Dark Ages, I mean when I say it, I mean basically the division of the Roman Empire, the turmoil that followed the fall of the Roman Empire, and the division of that huge area of land. Among the vying powers that moved into that vacuum, it created quite a bit of turmoil. That's what and I think that if we consider Dark Ages, that be a better description of it than the lot where they stopped innovating new ideas and keeping written records. That's just not true.
Yeah, the Bible is not real specific about a lot of the details of, say, cosmology. It's rather general about what it says, and I think that I've written about that. That's a rather good thing to see there. Many people think the Earth, the Bible teaches the Earth is flat, or that
Hey, Junk Shop, give us some flat Earth Bible verses, would ya? There's a lot of inferences that can be made from biblical passages that you are going to, look, we're looking at me like that. You know what I'm talking about. The corners of the earth, the pillars of the earth, all these terms that are used in the Bible. You want to say that when they say that, it is poetic language, but then when they say the earth's 6,000 years old, you want to take it as literal. So, and that's not even said in the Bible. That's done just by counting up genealogies.
That teaches geocentrism. It doesn't. It's rather ambiguous about it. And what has happened is people have chosen to interpret the Bible certain ways. Like some of the things he was talking about there was stuff that came from Thomas Aquinas, 800 years ago, bringing in Aristotelian and Ptolemaic thinking into it. And the Roman Catholic Church ended up endorsing that. And even some of the early reformers did, as it turned out. And so when the paradigm shift happened in science 400 years ago, I should say.
Right. That was the biblical interpretation. The Catholic Church is biblical interpretation. The mainstay biblical interpretation. So
it kind of caught people flat-footed. But it wasn't that what we were discovering contradicted Scripture. What it did is it contradicted what people thought the Bible said this whole time. And that's the key.
Right. The same thing with the young earth. It's what you guys think the Bible says, but it doesn't ever actually say that. It doesn't ever say that the earth is, it doesn't even say that the 6 days are literal 6 days. The days of God are not the days of man, right? So he exists outside of our time. So we don't know what 6 days to him are. Maybe it's eons. Maybe this is the sixth incarnation of Earth. Richard, I miss you.
Issue. What does the Bible actually say? And it turns out it oftentimes says something very different from what most of us think it says. Now, I've been wrong about that myself in the past. So I'm not just criticizing other people, I'm criticizing myself, because I've changed my mind about some things because I had some wrong ideas.
So that is the key, though. He's pointing out that they had to reinterpret Scripture. Really, you're not having to reinterpret Scripture. You're having to change a preconceived idea.
We're updating the science, and by updating the science, your interpretation of the Scripture no longer fits with the science. So they changed the way that they interpreted that, and the same thing is going to apply to the young earth. It's going to be, for most people it does. So the young earth creationists are not the mainstay of Christianity.
What Scripture says, yeah.
Yes.
The whole idea is they try to say that, 400 years ago, about 1600, shortly thereafter, with what we call the Galileo affair, that the Roman Catholic Church was saying, well, what you're teaching about the sun, Earth going around the sun rather than the other way around, that violates what Scripture says. Scripture doesn't say that. Yeah. That's what people got from their science, by the way, from Aristotle and Ptolemy, and then they turned around and said, well, it must be what the Bible says. And in fact, much of the refutation...
Well, I mean, yeah, they could, because they decided that there was literally, until, when the people that wrote the Bible, until a certain point in time, they did. The earth was flat, it was stationary, the sun traveled across the sky, the moon traveled across the sky, the stars were tiny points of light in the distance, like Neil just said. They would they could fall from the sky. But yeah, the sun traveling across the sky is very important to the mythology, especially with the story of Jericho, where the sun was stopped in the sky. The earth wasn't stopped, the sun was stopped. So I don't know if you understand how I think this guy's like an astronomer or something. If you understand how how the physics of that work, the sun stopping in the sky is incoherent, right? The Earth would have to stop, and if the Earth stops, why wouldn't the Bible document it as such?
Given Galileo 400 years ago didn't come from Scripture; it came from science of the day. So he's mischaracterizing a lot of things there, and that's a common mischaracterization that people give.
What an interesting perspective, that actually what we're correcting is we're correcting the science. We're not correcting
We are correcting the science, updating the
the
science.
scripture.
The whole thing 400 years ago was a scientific.
Yeah, and then you have to update, and then people update their interpretation of the scripture based on the science.
It was not a biblical dispute. People objected. Even Martin Luther, when he first heard about Copernicus 100 years before that, he said, "This fool," he didn't mention by name, "wants to overturn all of astronomy." Well, yeah, he was. And he went on to say something from Joshua about the sun standing still. But he said, first of all, overturn all of astronomy.
That's why you mentioned, yeah, Joshua. The Battle of Jericho.
And he was talking about Aristotelian Ptolemaic astronomy. So Luther was half right on that part. And that was the problem. People were bringing secular sources, pagan sources in this
Why are the pagan sources?
case in, and interpreting scripture and insisting then that's what the Bible taught. And that's where they got it completely.
The Bible does say literally that the sun stood in the sky. Yeah. It stopped. It stopped moving. The sun was moving across the sky and it stopped. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of the way the physics of our solar system work.
Wrong. So it really was a scientific squabble 4 centuries ago, not a biblical one at all.
And now they've turned it around today to say, oh, they're actually having to change their interpretation of the Bible. And really, they were just simply correcting the modern science. Modern science has a long history of being wrong. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, we're still doing that. And you're wrong.
Absolutely.
You're this at billions of years old. Okay.
And there's a parallel there today, because now you can give numerous examples of where people have interpreted scripture in terms of the current science, and then when it changes, it leaves them kind of holding the bag there. And in the case of today, we're probably going to touch on this, the Big Bang.
Yeah, being able to shift back and forth between poetic language and scientific reality is a convenience that you have when interpreting any ancient religious text. As new stuff comes to light, you can say, okay, well, this is figuratively speaking. Yeah, it's not the same thing at all. Well, let this wrap up
It
here.
has become the dominant thought that everybody wants to now interpret scripture. And I'm saying, folks, listen, time out. You need to consider the fact that we've been down this road a number of times, and it never ended well when we did that. Why are you expecting it to be different this time? Because I am convinced
fantastic.
the Big Bang model will not be around eventually. So it will.
Well, babe, the thing is that your schism of a schism of a schism from the Catholic Church and their interpretations does not mean that that wasn't the main Christian interpretation in these ancient times. All the way back to, yeah, you want to talk about Galileo and Copernicus. I say ancient times. It's not really ancient times, but anyhow, you know, the late Middle Ages, before the Enlightenment, or maybe at the cusp of the Enlightenment, right? That's when these interpretations changed. There were still the people in the population, not obviously not the people who went to university and things, but who at that time thought the Earth was flat and stationary. I mean, hell, there's people that think that today, so it's not surprising that there's always been a portion of the population that interpreted things that way, and interpreted the Bible as literal, that you wouldn't be able to come and tell them that, hey, these fossils say the Earth's billions of years old, and get a agreement from them through any point in history. You wouldn't have been able to make that claim, because the Bible said that it was 6 days, that the Earth was flat, blah, blah, blah. You couldn't say that, yeah, it's impossible for the sun to stand still in the sky by the nature of what the sun is and its relation to the Earth. The sun would not stand still. The Earth would stand still. And it would change the orbit of everything. It would be problematic.
Be replaced by something else.
All right, so that's a little bit shorter, but I didn't want to go too hard on Eric Hovind just yet. I wanted to see what I thought about the arguments that they're making, the people they have on. We'll probably revisit Eric again. He's got a ministry that's pretty influential, so I think that I am interested in engaging with more of their content. And there is we looked at their hold on. Oh, why do I keep doing that? I didn't mean to pull that up either. That was from yesterday's show with Michael Granado. But anyway, here's Eric Hovind's ministry page, I guess. Creation Today Ministries. There's a lot of stuff that we could potentially cover here or talk about. We don't have to do new stuff either. Meet the Flintstones. Did cavemen exist? That could be fun. Yeah, so we'll revisit this channel. I'm subscribed, so on my sock account. Anyway, that was Creation Watch. Today we covered Eric Hovind. We had a little bit of a Hovind double whammy because we did Big Bad Mama's supercut of Kent talking about giants too. So we've slammed that together. We call it the giant-sized Hovind edition. And yeah, please remember to be kind and take care. And leave your comments down below. This has been Creation Watch. All right. Hey, who is ready to talk about some green stuff? Yes. When I say green stuff on this channel, most of the time, I mean environmental stuff. And I mean talking about saving the planet, saving some species. But today, I am talking about space invaders. Space invaders. We are talking about getting some cows high. This is from HiveScience. Boy, oh boy, is this a doozy. Nice little palate cleanser here from the Hive for you. Cows fed hemp act stoned and produce milk containing THC. Let's read on, ladies and gentlemen. Cows fed hemp, which is not yet an approved animal feed, behave strangely and produce milk with THC. Who would have thought, right? I love that this is the hard research that we are getting out of our scientific community. THC milk coming to a store near you, 2025. Scientists conduct research to see if hemp could be a safe feed option for dairy cows. The dairy cows wobbled unsteadily on their hooves, their tongues lolled about, and the membrane of their eyes reddened. What triggered these odd symptoms? A diet of industrial hemp, research says. The cannabis-derived product didn't give cows the munchies. In fact, the cows decreased their overall food intake. In turn, they produced less milk, but the milk they did yield contained detectable levels of both delta 9, here's the fun word, tetrahydrocannabinol, which is what THC stands for, the primary high-inducing compound in marijuana, and the cannabidiol CBD, which exerts some effects on the body but isn't psychoactive, so that gives you the body high, but it doesn't affect your brain. Hemp is not yet an acceptable animal feed additive in the U.S. or Europe, in part due to concerns that the plant's active compounds will find their way into milk. Senior author Robert Pieper, temporary co-head of the Safety in the Food Chain Department at the German Federal Institute for Risk Assessment, told HiveScience in an email. But as the hemp and CBD industry have grown, stakeholders and regulators have theoretically considered using hemp as animal feed, citing its cheapness and nutritional value, Science reported. However, there is not enough research to approve the plant for such use. In a new study published Monday, November 14th, in the Journal of Nature, Piper and his colleagues, I don't know if that's Piper or Pieper, I guess Piper though, and his colleagues found that cannabinoids can slip into milk of hemp-fed cows, but the risk this could pose to consumers remains unclear. To evaluate the effects of hemp on dairy cows and their meat, or not their meat, their milk, could affect their meat too. I don't know if they tested that yet. In their milk, researchers fed 10 lactating dairy cows, so it's a sample size of 10. That's not a really large sample size. Lactating dairy cows feed containing hemp with different concentrations of cannabinoids, meaning cannabis-derived compounds with drug-like effects. Hemp and marijuana come from the same plant species, Cannabis sativa, but by definition, hemp contains no more than 0.3% THC, while marijuana carries higher concentrations, according to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. In the first weeks of the trial, researchers swapped some of the cow's corn-based feed for hemp feed made from whole cannabis sativa plants. This contained low doses of cannabinoids. Then for the next 6 days, they fed the cows a high cannabinoid hemp feed made from flowers, leaves, and seeds of the plants. The whole plant feed had no effect on the cow's health or behavior, but within hours of switching to the flower feed, the bovines' breathing and heart rate fell unusually low. These are rare symptoms in cows that only occur in the course of serious illness or can be pharmacologically induced, the researchers noted. The cows drooled, yawned, and produced more nasal secretions than usual, and their eyes reddened. They also exhibited pronounced tongue play. I do the same thing with cannabinoids. I'm like, so tongue play is always welcome. Some cows who ate larger amounts of the flower feed developed an unsteady gait and adopted abnormal postures when they stood still. 2 days after the diet switch, the cows stopped eating as much and their milk yield declined. We currently do not have a mechanistic explanation as to why this occurred, Piper told HiveScience. The flower feed happened to contain more fat than the whole plant feed, so that could have affected the cow's appetite. But the cannabinoids themselves may also have played a role in the researcher wrote. The observers, maybe I've had too much cannabinoid. I'm having trouble reading. Maybe it's the sunglasses, right? But I can't talk about weed without my sunglasses on. The observed changes in the cows resolved within 2 days of them switching back to their normal diet. THC is the most likely culprit behind the changes, but other cannabinoids and chemicals in the hemp may have contributed to the cow's symptoms. THC, CBD, and other cannabinoids could be detected in the cow's milk at the end of the whole plant trial, throughout the flower feed trial. 8 days after the latter trial ended, detectable THC and CBD still lingered in the animal's milk. The amount of THC detected during the flower feed trial could have some effect on human health, the study authors said. However, at some point, it's not clear if such THC-tainted dairy would get you high. Much more research would be needed before regulators could consider approving hemp as animal feed. So, I'm kind of interested in this THC milk. I wonder if it makes it through pasteurization, the pasteurization process, if the THC and CBD get through that, because you could market this as milk that helps ease joint pain and things like that. If it's because in my experience anyway, as a advocate of marijuana use for both physical and mental ailments, I am of the opinion that that edibles, that marijuana that you consume by eating it is more effective on your body. I don't know if there's research behind that. It's just my experience. Like if I eat an edible, it hits my body, and I'm like, my joint pains and aches and stuff go away. Whereas if I smoke it, it's more of a head high. That's just been my experience again. So each person's unique and has their own independent biology that may be affected differently. Brian Stevens says it's an expensive way to feed the livestock, but yeah, I guess that since the prohibition on it is ending, it's not too hard to grow weed and hemp. That the market value of it has gone down, so it's not as expensive as it used to be. I think that's the reason why they're looking into it, because it's actually, hemp is easy to grow and maintain in bulk. It's just that there was prohibition on it for so long that the market really didn't level out. So it was like there was too few places to sell it for it to be a commodity, so it was rare for people to grow it, and often it was illegal to grow it, so people had to grow it in seclusion and things like that drove the price up. But now that it's legal, especially in places like the U.S., it's not the market value of it's not nearly what it used to be. Anyway, so that was the first part of the show. I think I'm going to call this start calling this segment like silly science or something. We'll do something silly, and then we'll do something conservationist. So we'll do something silly after Creation Watch, the palate cleanser, and then we'll go back in, and I'll end on something like this. And I'm going to take my sunglasses off now because I'm not talking about weed anymore. We are talking about the environment and the progress that we're making in taking care of it. So we had double Hovind earlier. Now we're having double green. Double green because we're talking about electrical bacteria may help clean oil spills and curb methane emissions. A wispy microbe's influence over surroundings clears toxic sulfides and methane, which is what we're seeing here. This is so pretty though. Look at that. And it looks like maybe it's stars or something. It's microbes that are going to be cleaning up methane and oil spills. Yeah, let's read on. This is a good project that's going on. This was from July, so this has been a few months back. The small motorboat anchored in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay. Shrieks of wintering birds assault the vessel's 5 crew members, all clad in bright orange flotation suits. One of the crew slowly pulls a rope out of the water to retrieve a plastic tube about the length of a person's arm and filled with mud from the bottom of the bay. As the tube is hauled on board, the stench of rotten eggs fills the air. Chesapeake Bay mud is stinky, said Sarah Malkin, a biochemist at the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science in Cambridge, who is on board the boat. The smell comes from the sulfuric chemicals called sulfides within the mud. They're quite toxic, Malkin explains. Malkin and her team ventured out onto the bay every couple of months to sample the foul muck and track the abundance of squiggling mud dwellers called cable bacteria. The microbes are living wires. Their thread-like bodies, thinner than a human hair, can channel electricity. Cable bacteria use the power to chemically rewire their surroundings. While some microbes in the area produce sulfides, the cable bacteria remove those chemicals and help prevent them from moving up into the water column. By managing sulfides, cable bacteria may protect fish, crustaceans, and other aquatic organisms from the toxic nightmare, says Philip Meisman, a biogeochemist at the University of Antwerp in Belgium. They're kind of like guardian angels in the coastal ecosystem. Now, scientists are studying how these living electrical filaments might do good in other ways. Laboratory experiments show that cable bacteria can support other microbes that consume crude oil. So researchers are investigating how to encourage the bacteria to grow and help clean up oil spills. What's more, researchers have shown that cable bacteria could help slash emissions of potent greenhouse gas methane into the atmosphere. There's plenty of evidence that cable bacteria exert a strong influence over their microbial neighbors, Meisman says. The next step, he says, is to figure out how to channel that influence for the greater good. Electric life. Under the microscope, cable bacteria resemble long sausage links. Their multicellular bodies can grow up to 5 centimeters long. Embedded in the envelope of each cell are parallel wires of conductive proteins, which the bacteria use to channel electrons. According to Meisman, the wires are more conductive than the semiconductors found in electronics. About a decade ago, a team of scientists first discovered cable bacteria in sediment collected from the bottom of Denmark's Aarhus Bay. Since then, cable bacteria have been found on at least 4 continents, in streams, lakes, estuaries, and coastal environments. Name me a country and I'll show you where cable bacteria are, Meisman says. Most often, cable bacteria nestle shallow in the sediment, where with one end positioned near the surface where there is oxygen, the other end plugged into deeper sulfide-rich zone. Using their filamentous bodies as electrical conduits, cable bacteria snatch electrons from sulfide on one end and offload them to oxygen, an eager electron acceptor. At the other, says Nicole Gerdings, a biochemist at Utrecht University in the Netherlands, or Utrecht University, sorry. Similar to how batteries charge and release energy by transferring electrons between an anode and a cathode. Cable bacteria power themselves by channeling electrons, she says. The electron transport gives cable bacteria energy. This unique lifestyle allows cable bacteria to survive in environments that many organisms could not endure. The toxic firewall. In 2015, Malkin, Meisman, and colleagues reported that the cable bacteria may help to counteract the onset of euxenia, a fatal buildup of sulfide and oxygen, starved bodies of water. Euxenia can trigger mass die-offs of fish, crustaceans, and other aquatic life. The lethal phenomena can occur after fertilizers or sewage are washed into the sea or lakes. That flow of nutrients can trigger algal blooms. I guess that's how you'd say it, algal blooms. I guess algae is the proper way to say algae. I say algae because I grew up with a swimming pool, and my dad has this thick southern accent. Algae. When those nutrients are depleted, the bloom dies and large quantities of organic matter sink and accumulate on the sediment. Microbes then decompose the dead material, devouring as much of the oxygen in the surrounding water in the process. When oxygen levels become critically low, sulfides may begin to leak from the sediment into the water, giving rise to euxenia. While studying cable bacteria in brackish bodies of water in the Netherlands, Malkin and colleagues discovered a thin layer of rust coating the lake bottom. As the cable bacteria pulled electrons from sulfides, converting the noxious chemical into less harmful sulfates, the water within the sediment became more acidic, which dissolved some of the minerals containing iron. The now mobile iron percolated upward in the sediment until it interacted with the oxygen to form rust. Thin layers of rust could capture sulfides that would otherwise flow into the water, acting as a firewall that could delay euxenia for over a month, or even prevent it altogether, the researchers reported. Even when the cable bacteria population dropped, the rust layer persisted, protecting other aquatic creatures from sulfide exposure. The rust may explain why, even though instances of nutrient pollution, algal blooms, and oxygen depletion are relatively common, reports of euxenia are rare. Oil cleanup. Some researchers are trying to harness the bacteria's electrical abilities to tackle another devastating threat to coastal ecosystems, oil spills. This is what brought me here. So this is why Bumblebee is here. When an oil spill happens in a body of water, booms, skimmers, or sorbients are often deployed to limit the spread of hydrocarbons on the surface. But oil may also wash onto beaches, mix with sediments in shallow water, and aggregate onto sinking particles of organic debris, hitching a ride to the seafloor. Cleaning up oil at the bottom of the sea is a difficult job, says Ungo Marzocchi, a biogeochemist at Aarhus University in Denmark. I am not aware of a very effective way to remove hydrocarbons from the seafloor, he says. In inland freshwater systems, what is generally done is to dig out the sediment, he says, an expensive strategy that would be even more costly at sea. Yeah, actually going out there and dredging the top layer of the sediment off. Let's watch them. You want to watch them? Let's see what they do. Cable bacteria moving towards oxygen. All right, hey, there's me. There's us live right now. Haha, it's Inception. All right, electric cable bacteria, white filaments emerge from the seafloor sediment at the bottom, stretching their bodies to reach a zone of oxygen in the water. The stringy organism uses the oxygen to offload electrons they've harvested from harmful sulfides found in the sediment. As sulfide concentrations go down, the water becomes more habitable to microbes that can clean up oil spills. Some soil-dwelling microorganisms can use hydrocarbons to fuel their metabolism, and researchers have been studying how some of these oil burners might assist in the cleanup of contaminated sediment. But as they break down hydrocarbons, the microbes generate those concerning sulfides, which are detrimental to the microbe's own survival. Marzocchi says, in other words, the microbes can help clean up the oil for only so long before they're overwhelmed by their own toxic waste. Cable bacteria might be just the solution, Marzocchi thought. In 2016, researchers reported finding evidence of electrical microbes in a tar oil contaminated groundwater aquifer in Germany. Knowing the cable bacteria could occupy sediment contaminated with hydrocarbons, Marzocchi and colleagues reasoned that these bacteria might be able to assist oil burning microbes in accelerating oil cleanup. The researchers filled several containers with oil contaminated sediment from Aarhus Bay, which contained naturally occurring oil-eating bacteria. The group then injected a few containers with cable bacteria and monitored the degree of hydrocarbon degradation in all the containers over 7 weeks. By the end of the test, concentrations of alkanes, a type of hydrocarbon in the sediment with the cable bacteria, had dropped to 0.125 milligrams per gram of sediment to 0.086 milligrams per gram, a 31% drop. That's 23 percentage points more than the 9% increase in the controlled sample. Cable bacteria helped accelerate the metabolic activity of their oil-eating neighbors by converting the toxic sulfides into sulfates. The sulfates didn't harm the oil-eating microbe. In fact, they used the chemicals as fuel. So to the rescue, oil-eating microbes can clean up the seafloor sediment contaminated by oil spills, but those microbes generate toxic sulfides as waste, which hampers the microbe's activity. Bacteria may help by harvesting electrons from the sulfides, converting them into sulfates, which the oil-eating microbes can use as fuel. Meanwhile, the bacteria channel the electrons up their body and pass them off to oxygen in the sediment. This transport powers the bacteria's metabolism. So this is pretty cool stuff. Yeah. How much more we got here? Okay. We should have enough time to finish this. We still got 15 minutes. The researchers are now trying to develop methods to promote bacteria growing in the field and see if it's possible to enhance their effects on oil degradation. One catch is that the oil-contaminated sediment oxygen is quickly used up by the microbes that break down the hydrocarbons. That's a problem since bacteria need access to oxygen. Salts that slowly release oxygen or nitrates, which bacteria can use in place of oxygen, might help spur the electrical organism's growth at oil spills. But more work is needed to identify the right chemical components and dosage, Marcosi says. Meanwhile, scientists are investigating how bacteria might help reduce emissions in another hydrocarbon, one that accumulates in the sky. Methane at the roots. Colorless, odorless methane is the simplest hydrocarbon. It consists of a single carbon atom attached to a quartet of hydrogen atoms. At its potent greenhouse gas, and it's a potent greenhouse gas, more than 25 times as effective as trapping heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. One major source of methane is rice paddies. During the growing season, rice farmers typically flood their fields to help stave off weeds and pests. Methane producing microbes, aptly named methogens, thrive in the waterlogged soil. Paddy dwelling methogens are so prolific that rice fields are estimated to generate about 11% of all human induced methane emissions. But bacteria like paddies too. In 2019, Vincent Scholz, a microbiologist at Aarhus University, and colleagues reported that bacteria could flourish among the roots of rice plants and several other aquatic plant species. The experiments, in an experiment, pots of rice plants grown in soil with bacteria developed orange layers of rust and emitted less methane than pots without bacteria. That discovery inspired the researchers to investigate how the bacteria interacts with methogens in the soil that grow rice. The team grew its own rice plants, some potted in soil with bacteria and some without, and monitored the methane emissions. To the researchers' surprise, adding bacteria reduced rice soil methane emissions by 93%. That's a lot, 93%. Keep that in mind. Yeah. In the process of removing electrons from sulfides, the bacteria generated sulfates, which other microbes can use as fuel. Those sulfate-consuming microbes outcompeted methogen for nutrients such as hydrogen and acetate in the rice soils. The researchers found the results were quite amazing, Scholz says, though the effectiveness of the electrical microbes in real rice fields has yet to be tested. There are signs that bacteria are already plugged into real rice paddy soil after analyzing genetic data collected from rice paddies in the United States, India, Vietnam, and China. Scholz and colleagues reported in 2021 the presence of bacteria at sites in all 4 countries. Scholz is in North California this summer studying how bacteria live in rice fields and whether they're already impacting methane emissions. He is also exploring ways to introduce cable bacteria to rice fields where they do not yet exist, or enhance the microbes numbers in fields where they do. There is still much to discover about how these wispy electrical conductors influence our world, Malkin says. Back in the Chesapeake Bay, she and colleagues have found that cable bacteria tend to flourish in the spring and a surge that has also been observed in the Netherlands. The findings add to a growing body of work that suggests cable bacteria are opportunistic organisms that interact with their environment in similar ways all around the world. If cable bacteria are already hard at work across the planet, then a bit of coaxing from researchers may be all it takes to turn the mud-dwelling creatures into the most helpful neighbors in the living that a living thing could ask for. So, yeah, that was about these cable bacteria that generate and process electrons as part of their biology, and how we're going to be using those in the future. I would keep an eye on these organisms to see what actually comes of this. But yes, that was our dive into a little bit of hive science today. I hope that you all had fun and enjoyed the stay with me here as we explored our multiple topics. That was Cryptic Corner, where we revisited Antarctica and alleged giant monstrous spider creatures down there. And then we went into Creation Watch, where we hung out with Eric Hovind and watched him try to get Neil deGrasse Tyson on the ropes. And then we had some stoner cows and electrical bacteria. This has been quite the adventure, and I appreciate everybody for coming in and giving us some love. If you haven't hit the subscribe button down below, why don't you go ahead and do that now? There's nothing stopping you. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, go ahead and do that as well, because another thing that there's nothing stopping you from doing. If you haven't subscribed to our sister channel, or daughter channel, I guess I should say, because it says daughter channel, Battle of Gaia. Bugbot just dropped the link up above in the side chat, so go ahead and subscribe over there too. I talk specifically about animals over there, so if you got something that interests you, definitely 1940s bombshell style. Oh, you're so sweet. I wish I had better hair. My hair's so wispy and thin. But thank you, Deep. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed your visit to the Hive today. We will be back next week, Saturday, 9:30 a.m. with yet another installment of Live from the Hive. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time.
Evolution.
Take care, and we will see you next time.
How can you not believe in evolution?
Yeah, tell them that you believe in evolution.
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 Evolution. Evolution.
Yeah, tell them that you believe in evolution.
Evolution.
Yeah, tell them that you believe in evolution.
Evolution.
You're not going to get us to not believe in evolution.